Hi. I was
Hi.
because I think I have. So I would. I have all my life considered myself pro-life. So convince me of abolitionism.
Great. Okay, so do you agree that the unaliving of children in the womb is murder?
Yes.
Agreed. Do you believe that a woman who willingly goes and unalives her child with the coercion of a doctor and nurses and all of that deserves the same punishment and treatment as someone who just unalives an adult?
I would say it depends. It would have to
Okay.
be case by case.
Okay. So give me an example when it would be no.
Um, a child under the age of 18 convinced that this is the best decision for them to make.
Okay. So that would be one of those things where I would say there is still a crime, but as we do in underage kind of sentencing now in the legal system as it stands, we already treat them slightly differently than we would just treat an adult, right? If we
Hmm.
take that factor out, let's say we take out the youth factor. Let's say they're over 18, then what?
Then, yes, I believe so. I believe that they are, they should, they're old enough to have that knowledge.
Okay. So that's what we would call equal protection under the law, right? So the value of a child, whether they're out of the womb or in the womb, has the same amount of value as someone who's a full grown adult. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. So we agree on that too. So that means that you would affirm equal protection under the law. That's part of the pro-abolitionist stance as well, and most of the time it's part of the pro-life stance too. But they put a lot of kind of stipulations on it. So when we're talking about culpability, being guilty of a crime, what the sentence looks like is kind of a different conversation. Obviously, it's related, but it's not the same. It's not just all one blanket statement, right? So I don't go, hey, if someone performs an abortion, they get the death penalty. No, that's not what I said. Is that something that's a possibility? It could be on the table. Again, under some depends on some circumstances. Like we talked about with the last guy that was up, when there's coercion and actual, like, all that would just have to be discussed through in court, case by case. So I agree with you on the case by case part, but the overarching blanket law statement is kind of what we're getting at. So let me ask you this: would you be on board with a bill being put forth in like a state senate, the House, all that, that says, well, we're going to outlaw unaliving of children willfully. Gosh, I hate this TikTok language thing I have to use. Um, Up to X amount of weeks or when there's a heartbeat. So a heartbeat bill, would you be in support of or not of a heartbeat bill?
Yes, but I believe that life begins at conception. So
Okay. So for consistency's sake, and you know I love you, it is I'm not trying to come at you. For consistency's sake, you already said that you believe that the baby has as much value in the eyes of God and morally as an adult, right? So we agree on that already. So
right.
what would make what would make a baby who has not achieved a heartbeat yet in their development of less value, that it's okay that they be put away?
I don't think that they should. I don't think that a
Of course.
baby. Yeah.
Of course. I knew you were going to say that.
I
It was
think that
hypothetical.
if life is detected, then life is detected. So is
Agreed.
that something? Like right now, you're teaching me also about pro life. I guess I'm very,
Hmm.
very uneducated on the pro life stance. Then.
That's fair. Well, what pro life tends to, part of their stance is incrementalism. So they're okay with saying, okay, well, right now there are states that have, you can unalive the child right up to the moment they're about to come out. right? So why don't we do this? Why don't we try and achieve something that's in the middle, and we're going to save a bunch of babies? I get that there's heart there, that their goal is to save lives, but the question is if we're Christians. Now, if you're not Christian, that's probably a pretty good strategy. But being that we're Christians, we're to submit to our King, Christ, right? So if you were to bring that bill before Christ, would he say, yes, that sounds like a good bill? Or would he say, no, because those babies that are younger than that, I value them just as much, so that's unjust? Which one do you, if Jesus were the one voting, which one would he choose? Would he choose the heartbeat bill, or would he be, nope, all of those babies deserve to live?
Definitely that all babies deserve to live.
Of course. So if you, and that was, it seemed like a very obvious answer to you when you thought about it, right? And I agree. If that's the case, then as Christians, why would we not submit to Christ in that regard? So that's a big reason why I would be pro-abolition and not pro-choice. That alone.
Right.
The goal should be saving of the lives.
Do you mind if I add something?
Yes, please. Welcome, by the
Can
way.
you hear me
Good to see
okay,
you.
by the way?
Say again?
Do you hear me okay?
Yeah,
You're a little bit muffled.
just a
Okay.
little.
I'm at the gym with my
Oh,
earbuds in, so I don't know if I'm speaking loud enough.
I can hear you.
Okay. So when it comes to the law and protecting life, all human life, we recognize as Christians that the law is a tutor. So we must pass a law that grants all human life worthy of protection, the same protection that protects all of us. Um, and if there is any person who is convinced by someone else that they must get an abortion, they know that they are breaking the law, even if they're being peer pressured into it or what have you. So when it comes to um, like abolishing abortion, our goal shouldn't be thinking about, well, what about these people who don't actually think abortion is murder? The law tells them that abortion is murder. They actually already know abortion is murder before the law even tells them. But having the law, it tutors them. They have no excuse. They can't
Romans 1.
turn around and say, right, exactly. They can't turn around to the judge and say, I had no idea. Well, abortion won't be legal, won't be legally accessible when it's abolished. That's why it ought to be abolished. It will no longer be legally accessible. And right now, as it stands, the pro-life organizations and lawmakers are the ones who are turning down bills that abolish abortion. It is
It's true.
them who is doing it, not the pro-choice Democrats or even pro-choice Republicans. It is
It's true.
pro-life organizations who are working really hard to actually keep it legal.
Because their goal is to take the culpability away from the woman. They don't want the woman to ever suffer consequence. They say, oh, the woman is just a victim every single time. I'm sorry, that's not true. That is
Yeah, I
definitely
just,
not true.
especially being on this app, I don't see that as true either.
Right.
Um,
Well said, though, Allie. Yeah, I agree with all of that.
yeah, thank you for that. I didn't know any of that either.
It's a distinction that a lot of people just are unaware of, and I was unaware of it too until I heard people talking about it. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, yes. And what's interesting too is when you say this to someone that says they're pro-life, and then they're like, well, I agree with all that. Isn't that what pro-life is? And when they understand that that's not, it's like, oh, well, I believe something past pro-life then, which is pro-abolition.
Well, unfortunately, when you get into deeper conversations with people who are pro-life, when you press them on their stance, most of them are actually pro-choice. They have
Sometimes, yeah.
they have exceptions. They have limits where they say, well, I think it would be fine if we actually allow abortion up until this point, you know, or for this reason we should allow it. And we see that organizations, as I mentioned, but most just people in general, lay people, they would, when we press them on the issue, ultimately would be considered pro-choice.
It's true. Just shoot that. Yeah, so Mama Source said a heartbeat bill is the best. We might get in some states life begins at conception. So clearly you believe what we believe as far as life beginning at conception. But to me, settling for something that I know is not in line with the teaching of Christ, I mean, that's still compromise. And I don't mean to insult that. It's just, I feel that that's still compromise in your core belief. So let's say this. Let's say someone is pro-life but they're not Christian. Let's say they're an agnostic or whatever they may be. All of those arguments kind of work for them. It's like, well, I'm still achieving a goal that I believe is moral. It's less immoral, but it wouldn't be moral. It only becomes moral when it aligns with Christ, because morality is defined by God's very character. So anything that is not in line with God's character is sin, is unrighteous. So a heartbeat bill does not meet the category of being moral. It still falls under the moral category, just of a lesser scale than full on, unalive the baby until whenever you want. It's less evil, but it's still evil, is the way I see it. I'm not a big fan of the anarchy idea, no. Like, I have a little bit of libertarian in me, but not anarchy libertarian. Nope. I wouldn't want to settle it all personally. I'm not willing. Good. I agree with you. Yeah. I 100% agree with you. Good stuff. Good stuff.
So is it better to not settle on... Let me give a little bit of pushback. Is it better to not settle on the heartbeat bill and to just continue to let these innocent lives keep on being taken?
So if you're in any kind of activity, which I intend to get into at some point, I'm been kind of convicted that I haven't yet. If you're going to advocate for the position that you believe in, I would not compromise that. And I know the argument is like, well, in the meantime, a whole bunch of babies might, be unalived. And that's true. It is true, and it's sad that would happen. But at the end of the day, we need to exhort our leaders to submit to King Jesus, right? So if they're putting forth a bill that does not, it's like, that is not submitting to King Jesus. That needs to be changed. That language is compromise. Change that. That should be the push from all of us on the Christian side. The church should be pushing in that regard, in my opinion. And I get it. The heart to just protect children and save them. I understand that argument. It's not without merit, right? But at the end of the day, in the macro grand picture of things, that's the way I see it.
Right. I mean, I can understand that things, if it were like a heartbeat bill, it's harder to implement more along with it and or get it changed.
What would be the reaction? Let's put this out there. So let's say that in a state it's unalive the child until just before they're born. Let's say that that's where they're at. Then a heartbeat bill is passed. What then will all of the people who already intentionally were going to unalive their children do instead? They'll just go, oh, well, if I have to do it earlier, I guess I'll just do it earlier. My bet is that you're really not going to save all that many lives. There might be some that they're already past it and they're like, oh, well, I guess it's too late. I don't want to break the law. And then they're only convicted because they don't want to get in trouble, not because they're submitting to Christ or there's an immorality in it. But they're just, well, I guess I'm where I'm at. And then maybe the child lives, which, praise God that the child's alive. But for the rest that are still being unalive, that's still unjust. It's still injustice. And we all know that we're never going to have that perfect morality and a perfect government until Christ returns. We all know that as Christians. But we being his ambassadors here on earth now until that occurs, how should we be influencing our leaders and the people around us, our community and our churches? And to me, it's crystal clear for that. Ooh, that's a big conversation there, Mama Sore. We'll get to that. Did you guys have
Well,
any other
Yeah.
things to say on this particular part?
Ria, if you don't mind me adding, or just kind of like expanding on what you were talking about, um, unfortunately, with these heartbeat bills and abortion regulations, as opposed to abolition, we see women seeking abortion pills to murder their babies sooner rather than later. And since there is no current regulation, well, I wouldn't say regulation, there are no laws in any state that give preborn babies full legal protection. Women are able to access abortion pills outside of their state and outside of the country, and they are murdering their babies in the room legally under the law in every 50 state. So they are able to access these pills, even though the state might say it's not permissible to do that. They still they can do it legally without being prosecuted.
Yep.
So women are doing this sooner in large numbers. This is happening more than it's ever happened before at, at the risk of sounding like Trump.
Yep.
And
That's
then
correct.
women, women who are farther along are taking the second pill, which is, I forget the name, but the one that causes basically contractions and labor. Women are taking this pill for second trimester babies and delivering them and allowing them to unalive on their bathroom floor because it is not a prosecutable crime for them to do this. And it is, in my opinion, the pro-life laws and pro-life bans that are allowing this to happen because they do not seek to establish equal justice for all preborn children. This is what compromise gives us.
So the question about whether or not a woman should be prosecuted if they do that is almost the wrong question. The question really should it be legal for them to get those in the first place? Because if you prevent that, then you would prevent most of the rest of it. Now we all know that it's if someone's going to commit a crime and things are illegal and to them it doesn't matter, they will try to find a way to do it. But the standard should be that it is not right and there's a consequence for the action. Yeah. Great point though. It's absolutely true. I actually just heard a report. There was one that just came out. The FDA approved another one another one of those kinds of pills. So it is kind of starting to move in that direction. I think that the left is starting to see that they are going to be losing ground because there's big movements for the unborn, and I think once things start to be achieved, yeah, should the FDA? That's a great question. Once you see achievements being made on behalf of the unborn, they're going to start resorting and fighting for other methods, which is understandable. That's a logical next step for them. So I think that they are looking ahead and trying to protect those things that you mentioned, knowing that they're probably going to lose ground on the surgical side. So yeah, let's. I don't want to pass by Mama Soar's question about contraceptives. So I'll just kind of give my stance on it. Anything as it stands for me, anything that happens after conception, I'm 100% against. Anything at all. If it's something that prevents it, I'm a little bit more lenient on because you're not unaliving a child. The argument that can be made, and I know Catholics take this stance, as far as I know, is that you should never attempt to prevent an action that God might be intending for a woman to become pregnant. The purpose for most people using contraceptives is because they're engaging in something they probably shouldn't be, and they just don't want the possible consequence of that action to occur. So I am kind of lenient on that side. I take a hard stance on anything that unalives the child post-conception. That's an easy no. But the other side of it, I'm a little bit I don't know, a little bit on the kind of freedom side of that. I'm getting some lag. You guys seeing lag in the stream, or are we good?
I mean, it's good up here.
It's
Um,
what? It's good? Okay. Fair
yeah.
enough.
I I am actually across the board against
I understand that
contraception.
stance. Yeah.
Um, especially like a plan B. Um,
Well, that
I
would, I think that would unalive the child. So I would agree with you on that one.
Plan B is
Right?
underneath the same stance of abortion pills.
Yeah. So
Um,
I'm 100% against that too then.
so
Yeah.
I think what Mama Soros was trying to point out
right.
is the fact that there are actual contraceptives out there that prevent a fertilized egg from implantation.
So then no, that's because that's a
So that
conception
would be an
thing.
ultimate no.
100%
There
agree.
can be
Yep.
contraception out there that
I was gonna
only
bring up.
targets hormones that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
can't or that make it so then you don't drop eggs to be fertilized.
Right.
Ultimately,
That one's the one
best
where I'm not
solution
as
is
hard
stay
stance on.
abstinent.
I agree. You wouldn't have to make the choice to begin with if you were just behaving the way that God intended. So I don't disagree with you there.
Well, in addition, if there wasn't the plan C available, which is abortion, then people wouldn't be so quick to uh, have as much good times as they can with all of these backup plans, the contraception, plan B, and then abortion.
Sure.
When you know when it becomes abolished and it is no longer available for you, and it becomes a criminal act, less people will be willing to commit a criminal act,
Mm-hmm.
and they will be less willing to engage in activities when that act is no longer available.
I
Yeah.
mean, you would hope that there would be less likelihood of people wanting to commit a criminal act, but that's not always true. There are plenty of people who still commit criminal acts, even though it is, you know,
Of
it
course.
can bring a harsh penalty of life in prison, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really
So
care. They're just thinking about themselves.
so how would say pro-abolitionists got a bill saying that you can't unalive um a child in the womb at any point. How would that be? How would you make sure that that's not happening? How would you make sure it wasn't just somebody's the woman said, "Oh, I don't want to have a baby, so punch me in the stomach right now." Like, how would they be so sure? Like, how would those people be like
Regarding the
prosecuted?
punch in the stomach thing,
Well, I mean,
oh,
like
it would be treated the same way as
anyway,
any
any
abortion.
way that well, how would they know? How do you know it's not just a miscarriage? How would they
Yeah.
differentiate a miscarriage from like a forceful?
Mm-hmm. So that's where
I
it gets
think
really tough because I mean you would have to leave at some point in the hands of examiners and doctors because you definitely do not want to prosecute anyone who had a natural miscarriage. That would be egregious and horrible. Absolutely horrible. I have a sister who passed in that same way. So between me and my brother, my mother had a miscarriage. Her name was Haley. She had a name. And I'm going to meet her in heaven someday. My mom does not deserve any culpability for having a miscarriage. So, but the real question, so let's just put that aside. We can all agree with that. Yes, check, right. So the question really is about someone who, how do we know whether or not it was a natural one or it was some other means? That would just be a matter of examination and evidence. So we would have to then put our faith in the legal system to make the determination as to which it was. That would be my answer. As tough as that is. A reasonable doubt and due process. Yep, I agree.
But then, see, but that just also makes
Keep
it
going,
harder for
yeah.
me being a person who's had two miscarriages. Um, how would say we got a bill? Well, if I have another miscarriage, would they be like, "Oh, who cares if your
literally weeping your brains out.
Hmm.
You have to go through all this process and all this like all this stuff with the police, all this stuff with your doctor, like
I
like
get that. That's difficult. It's a great
that
question.
would make it so much worse on
Traumatic.
me.
Yeah, it was traumatic in the first place, and now even more. I don't have a great. That's a great question. I haven't really thought through that one before. What would it look like to investigate and properly assess what happened? Here's the thing. So there has to be a proper suspicion of it. Now, granted, you have the evidence of a person that is no longer alive. Obviously, that is something. But if there's no suspicion as to any kind of wrongdoing that's apparent, to me that should just pass on as it does now. I've never heard any pro-abolitionists say that there should be anything further that's happening in the cases of miscarriages. Now, granted, in some cases, if you have that kind of leniency, um, are there going to be cases that go through, well, maybe there was actually a crime that occurred and the woman was just really clever in how they hid it? Yeah, but are you then? It's going to be a one versus the other. Is it just to blanket all of these grieving women, which is probably the vast majority, just to try and find those few? I don't know. That's a tough one.
So
But I wouldn't support
my
that
viewpoint
as it stands.
for that would be the fact that if there was a suspicion for a forced miscarriage, a doctor would have to actually like sound the
Look at
alarm on
something.
that, because they're the ones that follow the whole pregnancy. They're the ones that do the first ultrasound, the first test, everything to see if it's true. There could be doctors out there who would falsify and try to incriminate mothers wrongly. Great example is moms who ate poppy seeds before giving birth. Now they have in their bloodstream
A
it
false
shows that they had
positive.
a drug. Taking an inhaler, as somebody with asthma, taking an inhaler without the doctor knowing, you get labeled as having a controlled substance in your blood system from an inhaler. They might label you as an abusive mom or a drug, taking drugs, so on and so forth. So there are those cases, but ultimately I think that if it was a miscarriage, you're already going to the doctors. Of course, I've had 2 miscarriages myself. My first miscarriage was followed very closely, with it being, I went in, they didn't detect a heartbeat at the time that there should have been one. They had me wait a week. I went back in, still no heartbeat. Went back again, no heartbeat. Ultimately, I was one of the women that had to take a medication to induce labor because I was starting to get an infection. I was starting to go down pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the only case where I think that the medication is needed, is for mothers whose bodies do not recognize that the baby has already passed and that you cannot physically pass it on your own.
That brings up a very great kind of facet of this whole conversation, is the category error that's sometimes made between abortion and triage. So your case was in no way abortion at all, categorically. It was a matter of, we already have a life that has passed. Now we have to fulfill our vow as a doctor and save every life that we can, which is like the definition of triage. It's what life can be saved, not what life can we get rid of, what can be saved. So in your case, the logical answer was obviously to take the care of the mother because the child was unfortunately already passed. So then the medication was not a abortion medication, it was an inducing labor medication, and it was used in a way that was actually moral. So all of that scenario, I would 100% agree, should remain as is. That should not change at all.
Right, and that type of situation shows that doctors have clear documentation of the
Right.
whole process.
Yep.
They have every note, every instance, and then they can say, well, I know for a fact that there was no ill intention with this pregnancy. This mom was trying, and unfortunately the baby did not survive.
Sure. Yeah. So then on the other side of the coin, what I know would be argued is, oh, so that means that you're pro healthcare for all, right? Because if you're going to institute that as a standard, well, that means that all women should have healthcare provided to them by the state for a child care. So how would we answer that that argument, if you will?
I mean, technically, our tax money is already taken out for that.
If you want my answer, it would be that is where the church needs to step up. That is the role of the church, is to care for women and children. Um,
Good.
and I, as much as I wish that all women would be active in a church, I know that's not going to happen
Mm-hmm.
necessarily, but I think there's great value in the community aspect of the church and how the church is called to care for its members. Um,
Awesome.
so outside of that, we do have organizations that are not pro-life, that are not um, compromising, and that are not excluding the gospel when women are seeking help and assistance, such as Choice for Two. They are actively helping women with medical bills and care, um, and providing for them when they can't provide for themselves. And it is a Christian organization, so that's where the church needs to stand up.
Awesome. So what it sounds like you're saying is that instead of the government being given the freedom to forcibly take from its entire populace to attempt to achieve a goal, which may or may not end up being used properly or good stewards of their money or any of that, the church should then biblically take upon the cause in their community to provide for these as a means through which they can hopefully be delivering the gospel to their community, if I'm hearing you right. Yeah, I agree. I think that's a worthy cause of local churches. Yeah, that's great.
So, what would your stance on ectopic pregnancies be?
It's an easy one. That's a matter of triage. So, and I can give you an example because I just went through a little bit of supporting a sister in Christ in my church who went through the very same thing. So, she's immensely brave. I have such high respect for her, it's unreal. So, they discovered that she had an ectopic pregnancy. The choice was given to her to end that, which you could make a case at that point, certainly, that it's a matter of triage. It's like there is no possible chance that this child survives, is what she was medically told. So this is what we can do to remedy that for you. She said, well, I'm not at that point yet. I want to trust God and let it play out as it's going to play out, even if I'm risking my own life for that to happen. Wow. So she chose to go ahead and let it continue until the child was definitely not alive anymore. And at that point, she had to go in, of course, and it was far more difficult. Yes, there's no skating around that fact that it was much more difficult for her to do that. Medically, she went through a lot of things. I'm not gonna name her or talk too much about it, but she went through a very difficult 2 weeks, and then obviously after that there was more recovery, both physically and mentally. But the faith that she showed, that's inspiring, and to me, I believe that a Christian woman, that is very reminiscent of a godly, Christ-like attitude toward the whole situation. Now, let's say that she did not make the same decision in the same way. Let's say that she was given this evidence and they said there is no way for this to continue. To me, that becomes, in matter of law, in the matter of legislating morality, that becomes the category of triage and not the category of abortion. Because her intention, let's say she had made the decision to do it when she was first told. She did not want the child to not live. She just wanted the child to not die. And if there was no chance that the child was not going to, well, then maybe the decision was made. It's like, well, we have to make this call as a matter of triage to save what life can be saved. So I take a pretty light stance when it comes to ectopic. I'm pretty much on the law side. It would be if it's ectopic, it's not an abortion categorically. That's where I stand on that one.
Yeah, I think when I've thought about it myself, if it were a possibility, I would not jump on the first time. Doctors have been wrong before.
Yeah.
With my second miscarriage, they had found some things and were telling me that he was going to pass anyways. Just go through with an abortion. I said no, and we went for about a month and a half. That I constantly went back every week for another appointment, more imaging. And he had just ended up passing on his own. But I think that people try to play God too much. Doctors try to play God too much. I've heard of some doctors, there's very few OBGYNs that try to move an ectopic pregnancy.
Oh, sure.
But they're few and far between, and they're very expensive.
And it's so close to such a massive blood supply. Like, I know that internal bleeding is one of the most dangerous parts of that, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, if that was more widely, if doctors tried, it's like, it gives me the same, like, when they say immediately, oh, this is going to happen to them, or this is happening, so just abort them now, get yourself through with it already. My oldest sister, she was told that her daughter had trisomy 21. I can't remember which one it is, but it was the one that they basically, when they're born, they pass right away. And they were telling her, just end the pregnancy now. That child is now 6 years old. Perfectly healthy.
Amen. Good.
So
Praise God.
doctors are just not,
they make mistakes.
They make mistakes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just like, I just hope that women have the courage to say, hey, let me.
Uh-oh, I lost sound. Can you guys hear her? I lost sound from you, Rhea. Yeah, okay. It looks like we lost a signal for you, Rhea. Might have to reconnect. Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you. I can't hear you well.
Okay. If you want to drop and pop back up, Rhea, to finish what you were saying there. Okay. Yeah, to me, I mean, blanket statement ectopic is generally speaking a triage issue, not an abortion issue. Oh, there she is.
Hi, sorry.
Oh,
I
can
sometimes
hear
I lose internet randomly, so.
No worries, no worries.
What I was saying was, I just hope that women can have the bravery, the courage to say, I want to wait. I want to see how this plays out. Like, I wish that I lived in a day and age where women actually loved their children in the womb versus thinking, is this just another thing on my plate?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being like, this is a human life that will have a plate of their own to fill up, so I hope that women ectopic pregnancy sounds terrifying.
Yeah.
But
They are dangerous. There's no question. We can't
right,
skate around that fact.
right, exactly.
And I think
Um,
it goes to a heart issue, really. I mean, that's something that across the board is just an issue in general with humankind, is that it's that drive towards selfishness rather than selflessness. And my
right,
goodness, that friend of mine at church, like, there's not a lot more selfless that someone could possibly be. Like, greater love has no man than to give his life for his friends or his family
mhm,
or their baby, right? Like, she was
right,
willing to risk her life for the potential that that child survived. And for us to not value that and to respect that and go, wow, that took a lot of bravery and fortitude. Good on you. Not, oh, you should really look out for yourself. Like, that's one
right,
extreme case, but when you say that same thing to someone who's just willingly walking in going, I don't want this thing in me, where is the virtue anymore? I shouldn't say
right,
anymore. It was
right.
never really there. Like, but that's that Romans 1 moment where we look at it and we go, oh, they're worshiping of themselves, and they're not trying to honor Christ, because if they were trying to honor Christ, it would sway their decisions.
Hmm.
I would rather be lost than give up my baby. Amen, sister.
The thing is, like, a lot of the pro-choicers would use high risk pregnancies as a reason for abortion. I've
Mm-hmm.
had 6 high risk pregnancies. All my
Wow.
pregnancies have been high risk.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm still alive. 4 of my children are still alive. 2 are more alive than I've ever been. Okay?
Right.
Well, technically 3, because technically one of them was a twins. But
Sure.
it's like, I don't like being used as an example
Mm.
for abortion
Mm.
because of my high risk pregnancies,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So
And
to
taking
me,
that
it's like,
point. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead and finish.
no, you can go.
I have
You
a
can go.
delay, so I know that I speak. Go ahead.
I was going to say that when I was first on TikTok, I was on the abortion side of TikTok.
Mm.
Um, I got a lot of threats. I had a lot of hate thrown my way. Told I
Sure.
deserved everything that happened to me. Because I said, hey, yeah, I'm high risk. I've had multiple high risk. And I still support life at conception.
Amen.
And it's just, you hear so many people bring up the cases of, oh, there's the high risk pregnancies. There's the people that will die if they give birth. Cesarean sections, C-sections. That is the safest option for them. Abortion takes up to 3 days, 5 days maybe, for them to fully dilate a woman to give birth.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yep.
oh, I'm going to have to mute. My child's coming in here.
The blessing enters the room, right? But the thing is at the end of the day, the risk was worth the reward. And the merit that comes from being selfless on this for the sake of others is a worthy thing. So, props to you. And here's the thing, the argument is, when they make that argument, it's like, okay, well, let's just take your premise and we'll put that to the side. If we exclude that and we allow unaliving for that situation, but ban it in everything else, would you then take that side? 9 times out of 10, they'll say, no, 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 that we still want to give the women a choice. It's like, oh, okay. So that extreme case that you showed really didn't matter. You were just trying to invoke an emotional response in me to go, oh, well, maybe in that, like, oh, I don't know, like, and bring some uncertainty to the conversation, which is intellectually dishonest. So anytime someone brings up those arguments, I would call them out on that. It's like, okay, well, let's say I concede your point for a second, put that to the side. And if we ban everything else, then are you on board? And they're going to say no. If they're consistent. Yeah, great stuff.
Unfortunately, there's also the argument that many women will give is that, well, I have other, babies at home, other children to care for. If I happen to be the one that unalives in this triage situation where I wasn't allowed to murder my own preborn child, then who's going to take care of my babies? And my first rebuttal to that, and it's a gut reaction, and it's probably not the most gracious one, is well, don't marry someone who won't care for your children without you. first of all. We should be seeking men who are willing to be fathers to their children in the case that their wife dies. My husband had to think about what would happen if I didn't come out of my C-section alive. And he was scared, but he was like ambitious and like ready if that was the case. He was ready to go home and care for all 5 of our children. And not, forsake, any of them. Of course, you can't, as much as I want to expect that of all men, it's not the reality that we live in. But, our first reaction to like having our lives at risk, especially in the case of ectopic pregnancy, the first reaction shouldn't be, well, let me just unalive my preborn child so that I can, still have my own life. Unfortunately, that's the idea of child sacrifice. And now there are cases in ectopic pregnancies where like the baby is still living and the doctors do have the obligation to provide medical care to the mother. When we separate the mother and baby surgically, I think that baby deserves dignity and respect just as much as if the mother was, passing away and they just could not save her, or any other patient. If you cannot save a patient, you allow them to pass with dignity, right? And they're not, like you said, it's a triage situation. They're not going to, when 2 wounded soldiers whose lives are at risk come into the triage and there's one nurse available, one person who can put their hands on the patient, they're not going to shank the other one and just to save the other. They are going to assess the situation and see who they can save, but they're not going to intentionally unalive the other.
100% right. Great analogy too. And that's the vow that I wish that doctors who still take today, I really wish that they would honor that, because often, the ones that are performing these procedures are breaking that vow every single day at work, every day. I really wish they would take those vows seriously. Because even me, so I'll take myself as an example, not to toot a horn or nothing, but I've said to people recently in another Discord chat, it was the topic of 2A and protecting life and the unalive penalty, all that kind of thing. And I said, well, I took a vow entering the military to protect the citizens of this country and the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And even though I'm not active duty now, if I see something occurring and I do nothing, I believe that I have then sinned. So the same thing applies to them. If they took a vow saying, I'm going to protect life and do everything I can to preserve life, and then you intentionally take one, that's breaking your vow. If it's a matter of triage and you save the one and the other passes, that's a different category altogether. So 100% agree with you on that. That's correct.
And finally, I just wanted to point out that it's very clear to us that doctors are trained to not value reborn life. If, in most cases, if the mother doesn't value her own preborn child's life, doctors are like, yeah, sure, whatever you say, I totally understand. And then other times we see they are trying to convince mothers that their preborn child's life isn't valuable enough to have dignity and respect and their right to life like we all have. So having laws that force doctors to actually care for all of their patients is necessary, in my opinion.
Yep. I agree. Great stuff. I just realized that I didn't have my noise suppression on, so I apologize for whatever room noise was in the first half of my live. I have to turn it off and on because if I do drum lives or if I do gaming lives, if I have the noise on, it messes things up. So sorry about that.
I thought this was the keyboard ASMR, you know.
You could hear the keyboard?
That.
That's so funny. That's something
how
I
knew
tried
there was,
and it didn't
message
work.
back in the chat.
That's funny. It's like, oh, Blake's responding to something over there.
I just wanted to echo a little bit of what Allie had said, that like men today are just, they're just simply not men, and it's society has allowed that. The society has allowed men to be like, I'm not going to take care of my children. That's my wife's job. Even to where like people are saying like, wow, like you get to go out of the house. Man, it must be nice that your husband babysits. And it's like, it's
Oy
not
vey.
babysitting, they're his kids too. Um, but having been a mother that's gone under the knife also, I I know exactly what that's like, and my husband knows exactly what that's like to hope and pray that you're going to make it out. And thankfully I have a great husband that's just
Yes,
been
you do.
always been ready to take it over for me. So I just think that that's, I believe, where a lot of this has started is that the men have become weak,
It's true.
and the devil has just been able to play with men's minds too much, where we don't have true men anymore, and we need to go back. We need to take some steps back towards where men actually cared about being men, you know.
They can't be afraid to say no to women.
So
If a woman says, well, I
what
just want to
I'm
do this for
hearing-
my own selfish things, they should go, no, and stand
What
up for
I'm
that.
hearing is we need to rub their faces in the dirt more often.
Where's the poop, Ted? Sorry.
Yeah.
Because honestly, it's all the soft guys who cannot handle criticism. It's the soft guys who can't handle a blow to their ego or their pride. And they don't want to be seen as a man that actually takes care of his family. They don't want to be seen as the guy that's whipped.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Great stuff. Bunch of based women in this chat. I just realized I'm the only guy here right now, am I? That's okay, though. But bunch of based Christian women. Praise God for that. And you know what? It's praise God for that, but at the same time, shame on you, all you men who aren't here and adding to the conversation like this too. You shouldn't have to have the women be doing it for you. I'm just saying.
Listen, I'm great when it comes to a hammer and a tent stake, okay?
As long as it's not my head, I'm good. Awesome. Good
I also
stuff.
want to say, on the other side of the coin, women need to be more feminine. Like, they need to quit trying to do all the men things too. Get back in the kitchen.
Everyone,
Yeah,
she said
go do
that.
your
I didn't say
laundry.
that.
Go do your
But I
laundry,
don't
women.
disagree. That's so funny. Been outside playing tag. Awesome. That's good for you. It's a good day to do that, to spend time with family. That's awesome. I did make a good sandwich. I don't know why you didn't say sandwich. We know you say sandwich. Do you not? I think she says sandwich.
Well, she doesn't say supper either, so.
I do, yep. No laundry on Sundays. Hey, if the laundry is being done other days and you take Sunday as your Sabbath break from laundry, I can 100% respect that. Good for you. We'll see. I'll put a pin in that one. We'll talk later.
I would dare say I'm not pro-life, but I'm not totally yet into the abolition stuff yet.
Well,
I
I'll
think
keep working on that.
That miscarriage bit needs to be like fixed for me, like
So-
a natural miscarriage versus
That would be, so here's the thing. Anything that doesn't change the current law, they're not going to put in a bill that tries to change the law. Just so you're aware. So you don't have to explicitly state something for it to change. Or you have to, I'm sorry, other way around. You have to explicitly state a change for there to be a change. And as it stands right now, it is not a crime for a woman to have a natural miscarriage. So any pro-abolition bill would not have stipulations that charge a woman who has had a miscarriage. So the abolition side would be on your side.
okay.
But we can talk about that later. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll parse that out a little more. But I am gonna. Oh, you're good, Brett. So I am gonna hop down. But hey, thank you all for the conversation. This was great. I'll try and do these more often. I know I've been a little bit lazy on doing lives for quite a long time. I got burnt out. You know, it happens to us all. But this was awesome. Supper. Anyway, I'm gonna go eat, and I will catch you all later. So God bless. Believe on Christ. He is the only means for atonement between you and the Father. You are definitely in rebellion against the Father, and you need Christ. He's the only means to salvation. So believe on Christ today, repent, and be baptized for the remission of your sins. God bless.